Welcome, everybody, to another great edition of Wire2Wire Sports Podcast. I am your host, the NFL genius, Gene Walzak, and to my left, into my upper left corner, I got Kent State's own, Cleveland's own, College Cottrell.
What's going on, gentlemen? How are you guys doing this lovely Wednesday evening?
I would not expect you to think this is a lovely Wednesday evening. I'm pulling your card from you. You are no longer the Ohio State fan. You can hand that in at the door because that is not the way an Ohio State fan. You need to at least take a week, maybe two.
I'm already focused on next
week,
year.
Maybe two of grieving. That's not a real fan. If the Cowboys won the Super Bowl, I would be sick for 2 weeks.
That's the difference between, I guess, you and I. I'm focused on next year. I'm already thinking about how we're going to win a national championship in 2024.
I don't agree with that. I think it's absolutely crazy. And you're wrong, and that's okay. It's okay to be wrong.
College and NFL are different, you know?
No, it's not.
It is. We got some transfer portal wins. NFL, you don't get the action right after the Super Bowl. We got some wins here, and I'm living on those.
In the upper right corner, I got Uncle Shally, Scholastic Shally, and fan of the national champion Michigan Wolverines, Mr. William Shallcross.
Just call me champ. Call me champ today.
You're not champ. The Michigan Wolverines are champs.
We'll go by champ.
You're not champ. You did not play on that team.
I'll refer to myself as champ for the rest of the game. That's the day.
I mean, the floor is yours, bro. I paused, obviously.
Oh, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know if we were going to start with Nick. I didn't know
No. We're starting with the national championship that just happened Monday. By the way, I was the only person that called that a 21-point blowout minimum. I mean, I get it. It wasn't 21 points in the fourth, but like it got away. But like, did I not call that game
to a T? It was not over at halftime. It was definitely a close game. But yes, you did say that it would be a blowout.
I took Michigan minus 14.5 on the alternate line. I won money. I was happy.
Definitely did.
Shally, you had listen. I'm going to tell you something right now. There are 3 takeaways from that national championship. 3. Number 1, Washington's defense was a little better than I expected. They were up to snuff on a lot of different things I just didn't expect. I got to give them a lot more credit from that. I thought it would be an absolute bullying up front. Now, obviously, it turned out to be that. Like the rushing yards showed that. But their defense, when it was 20-13, I felt like they had the ball twice, down 7, with opportunity to tie that football game, and didn't. Number 2, Michael Penix Jr. is not a first-day pick, maybe not a second-day pick at quarterback. He's just not. He missed so many like big throws in that game. And like, I'm not saying he's Desmond Ridder because he's definitely better than Desmond Ridder was when the moment got big. But man, he did not look good. And granted, I'm going to give Michigan's defense some credit, but I can't give them credit for like the wide open miss to Roma Duzier. I can't give him credit when he's missing throws that are huge. And then the third takeaway is J.J. McCarthy's not an NFL quarterback. He's worse than Desmond Ridder. I'm not kidding when I say that. Any team that drafts him to be their quarterback, they're going to be sadly mistaken and they're going to fail miserably. He is not an NFL quarterback. Now, with that being said, the Michigan Wolverines were the better team. And the Blake Corum hype, I don't know, man. Am I the only one that watches Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards and thinks Donovan Edwards is the better back? Like, am I the only one that sees that?
I've been saying it for 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the better pro prospect. I mean, we've been saying that for the last couple of years. Corum's just he's that college guy that that got the benefit of the doubt of running behind 3 straight great offensive lines, and did his job. He's still a very good running back. He's not going to translate to the pros too well because of his size. Donovan Edwards was, a 5-star kid for a reason. And you see it. He gets any kind of daylight. I mean, he's gone and you're not going to catch him. Be very curious to see, all the rumors coming out so far is that he's coming back. So I hope he does, because I would just love to see what he does being, option number 1 next year, because I think he could put up some wild numbers. But Blake Corb's a very good player. I mean, he's one of the leaders of that team, and I'm not going to trash him. Like I said, he's not going to translate that well to the NFL, but he's a very smart running back. He does run through contact very well. I mean, he's a bulky guy for a little guy, and he does have good vision. I mean, you have to give certain credit to people when it's due. But he's not a prototypical NFL quarterback. Donovan Edwards is, but
at best he's a end of day 2 guy. At best, at absolute. He's probably a day 3 guy.
He's probably a day 3 guy.
Okay. He reminds me of, and I know not the same style, well, similar style, but like Muhammad Ibrahim, who just basically went undrafted this past year, but was a great college running back.
I think they're a little different. I think Ibrahim was dealing with a lot of injuries. He wasn't super healthy. I don't think his combine wasn't great. But again, I mean, I think if Blake gets drafted, I think Blake will be very happy. He'll get drafted. He'll go work hard somewhere. He'll probably make the team as somebody's third down back or something like that. But he's got a lot of things he wants to improve on. He wants to play in the NFL. Donovan Edwards, they've lined up as a wide receiver this year before. He caught, I think, 30 some catches out of the backfield. When you factor in how little he's on the field at times, that's a lot. Like he's very comfortable catching the ball. Donovan Edwards is an all-around running back. He'll be very successful in the NFL when he goes.
So what are your guys' thoughts on the national championship? What are your thoughts on my quarterback takes? Because I would love to hear if you guys think differently. I seen Gatrell give me the eye roll when I said that Michael Penix Jr. is a day 2 guy. I don't know how that's a debate.
You said you don't know if he's even a day 2 guy. Is what
I don't.
What was.
You think he's a 2nd or 3rd round quarterback? Let me ask you a question. Hold on. 6 years of Michael Penix in college. He's going to be a very old quarterback coming out. He doesn't. Would you say he comes into the NFL as close to a Will Levis? I don't think so.
No.
And I don't like Will Levis. Like, what would you comp him to as a day 2 guy? Like, you know what teams do with quarterbacks? And I mean this when I say it. They take a guy at the beginning of the draft that's going to be their guy. Or they wait and they fall and they draft. That's why Sam Howell was supposed to be a 2nd rounder and went in the 4th round. Because what teams do is they look at, I need this quarterback. I'm going to trade up and get this quarterback. Or they wait. And there's very, very, very few successful day 2 quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, one of them, rings a bell. Even Dak Prescott went in the 4th round. It's either the 1st day or the 3rd day. Day 2 quarterbacks don't fare well. Geno Smith comes to mind. A lot of these guys that slip to the 2nd round don't normally fare out that well in the league. I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, my thing is that I understand, I guess, the premise behind things, but at the end of the day, for me, I'm not going off that. I'm going off of what I see like on film, and what Michael Penix Jr. does. Like he's a big game quarterback. I know the national championship game, you can talk about the missed throws here and there. Like I do get that. Like that was not one of his best games by any stretch of the imagination, but you also do have to factor in. Make sure you got to give credit to where credit is due. That was probably the best defense that they have faced all season. And, he looked rather, pedestrian in that game. But I can't just look at that game and not say, like the game before, I saw him outplay Quinn Ewers, who I think is going to be a starting franchise quarterback in the NFL. So, like, I can't just put that behind me because he looked rather pedestrian against a Michigan team. Texas has a good defense too. We talked about how good their defensive line was and how they get after the quarterback. He was unfazed by the pressure then. And I just think he's going to be a guy that has to go to the right system and be with a quarterback-friendly mind. I'm not saying that Michael Penix Jr. is going to be a guy that can go out there and start day 1 and be your franchise guy, but by no means am I writing him off. I think the way his accuracy is and the way he believes in himself to fit the ball in tight windows, that goes a long way for for quarterbacks. And I think with the right coaching, that definitely will be able to play a part in his NFL future. And then as far as JJ goes, I completely disagree. I think JJ can be in that same mold of, and it's not, you look at it now and you're probably like, well, that's exactly what I don't want. But I really look at him in the same view as I looked at a guy like Trey Lance. I think he's very much a question mark still. You got to put him in the right system, but he has, in my mind, he has great arm talent. I think he can be that guy. You're just going to have to wait a little bit on that return on investment. So, but I think JJ can be a very successful NFL quarterback.
Okay. I don't agree, and that's okay. And you say Trey Lance, but just to be clear, Trey Lance is worth right now a 4th rounder. That's what he got traded for.
I get it, but opportunity also does matter as well. So you got to put that in perspective as well.
Hold on. His opportunity was with the best offensive mind in football. That's not a good. I mean, yeah, but he didn't beat out Brock Purdy. He looked bad. His first game, he lost to the Chicago Bears.
And there's a lot that you talked about that you can't give him. There's
no bigger fan of what Trey Lance could have been than me. I was on board. I put him in my top 10 of projections because it's funny. I seen a rise of a San Francisco quarterback before it happened. I just didn't think it would be Brock Purdy. But the system with Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and the line and Shanahan. So what? I was wrong on the quarterback. It didn't mean the quarterback. It meant the system and when they were going to be productive.
I guess my point is if we're, just thinking about how things went in San Francisco, that situation, you could easily look at Trey Lance being that successful quarterback if he would have had that opportunity to play and not get injured. And we'd have no clue that Brock Purdy is doing as well as he is. Like, he would have just been buried on that depth chart. He would have been behind Trey, and we never would have seen him play, and he wouldn't have been given this opportunity. And then 2-3 years down the line, like maybe when he goes on to another team and a quarterback gets hurt, then you see him play. I mean, look at what Jake Browning is doing, what he did in Cincinnati. I'm not saying he played great while he was there, but he was a quarterback at Washington that had great numbers while he was there, went to the league and has been buried behind other quarterbacks, and then he finally got a shot. And you can't tell me that he's not one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the league. Like, I've seen quarterbacks play this season, and I think Jake Browning can start over a couple of them.
It's debatable. Like, we could play a game of Jake Browning or someday, and that's fine. We'll do that later. Shai, I don't want to get away from the national championship. I would like your take on what I said on the quarterbacks, but I don't want to get away from the national championship yet. What were your thoughts on the game? What surprised you? What didn't surprise you? Here's your chance, man. You have your opportunity to gloat. You're not going to get this again. Your coach is leaving. You're not going to get this again. So you might as well take the opportunity.
Everybody's in a big rush to push him out the door, and I'm starting to think people are starting to get scared of him.
I'm not scared. I don't
listen. Well, I mean, if you were to talk about the hopeless, leading the hopeless, that would be your fan base.
100%. I understand that, and I fully admit that. See, you guys take shots at me about Penn State in the chat here. I go on this show openly admitting they're not going to win anything as long as Franklin's there. I don't give them hope. I don't say they're good. I'm not. It's like if I was a fan of Kent State football.
Hey.
If I was a fan of Kent State football, would you guys? Well, Michigan's better than Kent. I'm not arguing that Penn State.
Hey, you're in the same. You're in the same conference, though. That's different.
I get it, but we're not going to be good until Franklin's gone. If firing the offense coordinator means nothing. Oh, great! They fired the offensive coordinator. Great job. You might have kept Drew Aller. Good job. That's all you did. Shai, the game.
Not the game,
but
the one that mattered. The one that mattered. What was I surprised about? I was surprised. I think that it took. I was, and I think this kind of goes into the game flow situation, which, you kind of already brought up with it getting away late. But I was kind of surprised how long it took Sherrone Moore to kind of, after Washington was kind of selling their souls to, to stop the run after Donovan broke those two big ones early.
Yep.
To kind of figure out how to get people kind of in spots that, that were going to be open. But eventually when he did, then he started moving the ball. Overall, I think it was another great performance. I mean, that defense is legitimate, like elite. Like it is, I'm not saying it's one or two, but it is an all-time defense. Like you look at the numbers they put up throughout the year and compare it to, 2001 Miami or compare it to, 2021 and 22 Georgia. It's right there. I mean, and then they were the strongest part of that team. I think Blake Corum and that offensive line and, get a lot of the headlines, but that defense is the reason they won the national championship. For a lot of points you guys mentioned earlier, they made Michael Penix look very, very ordinary. And that was the only team that did that all year. I look at some of the guys that came back and committed to either the fifth or this, in Barrett's case, the 6th year, because he had an injury waiver. And then you got all-time guys like Mikey Sanistro. I don't know if people understand, his whole story. That guy will be a hero at Ann Arbor forever. That guy will never pay for a drink ever again in that town. To show up there and be a 3-star, and make the team, played wide receiver as a freshman, and kind of everybody in the offense just kind of looked at him like you should legit look to, go in the portal and see if you can go somewhere else to play offense. And, he said, no, that's not what I am. Then teach me how to play defense. Then teach me how to help this team win. And they told him how to play defense. And he legitimate, he's borderline the team's defensive MVP. The kid just makes play after play after play. He will be a Michigan legend forever. Will Johnson, had a pretty good game against Dunze. I think a lot of stuff played out like I thought it was going to. I thought that was if they really couldn't get a Dunze going, I thought they were going to struggle. Felt awful for Dylan. That kid tried everything in his power to be on that football field.
But even after the injury, came back in and just couldn't do it.
And I think he looked okay. And then that freak injury, like the second play of the game where they came down wrong on his foot. So then it was he was pretty much playing on one leg, and the kid still wanted to go out there. And it just got to the point where he couldn't move. They had the one blitz, I think, a couple plays later, and he had to move to his left, and he just couldn't do it. And that was kind of it. I felt awful for him. But I think you got to tip your cap to Washington and Kellen DeBoer and Penix and all those guys, and it was going to be a sad ending for somebody, and it was going to be a happy ending for somebody else. There was a lot of good storylines in that game.
I want to address this real quick. Hold on, and Shelly, let me address it fully. The answer is no. I don't think they would, but this comment, I want to read it out for the listeners that are listening on Spotify. Does Michigan beat Georgia? I don't think they do. I think the answer would be no. But hold on, before you snap back at me. CJ says, congrats to Michigan, but it's an asterisk to me. Back-to-back champions left out with one loss. Wish they could have had an opportunity. Here's where I'll argue with you, CJ, where you're wrong. One team, now it might have been two, I don't know. There might have been like a Division II team. But one team went through the entire year without a loss. One team won their big games and didn't slip up, and one team beat every team that you put in front of them. I don't care if I think Georgia beats them on a neutral field, because Georgia lost to Alabama, and that's their own stinking fault. They can't lose that football game. I left that Georgia-Alabama game thinking Georgia was the better football team. I really did. I felt like Alabama outplayed them. I felt like Saban outcoached them, and I felt like when the times needed to happen, Alabama made the plays. Do I think Georgia and Alabama on a neutral field, Georgia wins? Yes, I do. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what. Do I think Oregon's better than Washington, even though Washington beat them twice? Sure, I thought Oregon was the better football team, but Washington beat them when it mattered. Twice. So I'll make things very clear. We're not going. He said I was being a jerk. I get it. But to make things clear, we're not going to asterisk Michigan's national championship. They were the only undefeated Power 5 team to win every one of their football games and beat everyone in front of them. Let's give them their credit that they deserve, regardless of what our opinions are on Georgia or Florida State or anyone else. That's So I want you to let me finish because I was going to give you your roses, whether my opinion or not changes.
No, so just getting back to the point, it was. I think it was a good game. I mean, and then up until the very end. I mean, obviously, the touchdown that they went up to, and then obviously the interception. That was just that was a dagger. Then it was kind of just a formality at that point. Got to give Penix Jr. I mean, he hung in because I mean they beat the hell out of him. As the longer that game went on. I will say I don't. I don't quite understand how that line won the Joe Moore Award, and that's not throwing shade. It's just that is. We have a very good defensive line. Don't get me wrong, but I mean I've never seen somebody get dominated like that when they wore it. But Penix gutted it out. I think to get back to kind of your review thing, I think that's one thing he has to worry about and he has to work on. He tries to get the ball out of his hand extremely quickly when he senses any kind of pressure or he can't get out of the pocket. He needs to work on being a little bit more composed, and he doesn't like contact. And I'm not saying any quarterback does. None of those quarterbacks like to get hit, so don't get me wrong. But his numbers are night and day when he's in the pocket and unblitzed versus any kind of pressure or anything that moves him out of the pocket. And you have to be able to do both in the NFL. He's going to see a defense as good as Michigan's every week in the NFL. That's the norm in the NFL. And guys are faster, and he's not going to have the loaded weapons like he did at Washington. So I'm happy. Obviously, I'm happy with the outcome. I thought they played great. We'll see how everything goes from here, but they did what they were going to do. I mean, they broke the record for most rushing yards in a game, 15-0. Like you said, they're only the fourth team, I think, to do that.
I also wanted to comment on this, Charlie. One of the things that I really look at when you watch a football game, because for 4 quarters, you know how they say any given Sunday, a team can win a football game if they're somewhat, I won't say somewhat evenly matched, but if they're, like you can't say any given Sunday, my Pee Wee team would beat Alabama. That's not happening. Yeah. But like any given Sunday, when you have people of the similar skill set, a team can win. But the 5th quarter rule is if the game continued, I felt like Michigan would have beat them by even more. Like I felt like when I watched that football game, that if that game went 8 quarters, Michigan would have won that game by 50. Like I don't think it would have. Like I think it would have continued to. Like the longer a game plays out, the more I guess you can see the better team, right? Like when I watched TCU versus Michigan last year. We all joked about it, laughed about it, that TCU won that game. But if that game went 6 quarters or 8 quarters, Michigan wins that football game. There's no doubt in my mind that they were the better football team. They just didn't play well. They made a lot of big mistakes. Whereas when I watched that game versus Washington, I felt like if that went 5 quarters, they would have won by 28. If it would have went 6 quarters, they would have won by 35. And I felt like it would have just continued to get worse.
Yeah, I mean, Washington would have been in a really bad spot at that point. I mean, and that's kind of what you had at the end. I mean, it was kind of, Michigan was rushing 4, still getting pressure, and they're dropping 8, and it just made life hard for Penix. I mean, as great as those wide receivers are, when you make a team like that one-dimensional, and they have to start taking shots down the field, and you have a secondary, with the experience that Michigan has, with all those guys back there, one bad throw, and that's what happened. I mean, the overthrow. I mean, the guy was in the zone. He just overthrew him and threw it right. And Sanders was behind him. Any kind of little mistake like that is gonna lead to points. But
the biggest overthrow was the one he missed in the beginning of the game when Nduzie was wide open.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he kind of had happy feet, and it was, I think Nduzie, was kind of like, all right, I'm open. I'm just gonna kind of sit down here, just throw the ball to me, and I'll run in the end zone. And he kind of was like, I'll lead you back outside. It was, and say it all the time and saying it all year. Little things lead to big things. That is, he catches that ball, or even if he doesn't score, it's a different game. It's a different game if they're down, inside the 20 or inside the 10. It changes the game flow.
But it sounds like you're saying too, and this is just to even back up what Gene was talking about in terms of like looking at Penix Jr. as a prospect. So you're telling me he's a left-handed quarterback that has happy feet in the pocket, that doesn't like to get hit, that's pretty accurate with the football, and we've seen him at his best when he has great weapons around him with an injury history. Like I feel like there's that kind of guy in the NFL, and I just think that's what his ceiling can be. That's why I don't want to write him off as a like day 3 pick.
Yeah, but are you guaranteeing he's going to a team with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and 3 running backs behind him? Like,
but you also have to know though that Miami didn't always have that. Like it took time for them to get there, and we saw Tua stink, for a couple years, and we wrote him off for sure. But then they gave him some weapons, they gave him a great coach, and now he's a franchise guy in Miami.
I'm not as low on him as Gene is, but I 100% agree with Gene. He's
you were. Stop it. You were. Yes, you were. Yes, I do. I have video clips of you saying Tua stinks when we were talking about.
I'm talking about Tua. I'm talking about Penix.
Oh, okay. All right.
No,
I thought he was talking about I'm not as low as Tua's Genius. Like, wait a minute. I have video clips of that.
No, I'm not as low on Penix as Gene is, but I agree with him 100%, though. I don't think he's a first-round guy. I think he's a
project. You're not a first-round guy. You're a third-day guy.
Yeah,
I've made my point.
The problem with that is, again, he's not 20. He's he's got to be. What is he? 24.
23.
He's going to be 24 for his rookie year. That's not ideal for a guy that you think is going to take another 2 years to really get adapted to the league and be efficient and be successul. You're now looking at a 26-year-old quarterback. And I get it. It's the one position you can kind of you could play till you're older, but he has injury history, like you said. He's not the biggest guy in the world. Like it's. If he can go to the right situation, kind of like a Trey Lance or something like that, and actually get the chance to develop on a team that is going to give him a 2-year window, then he does a lot of nice things. I don't think he's a franchise guy. I just don't see that. I don't.
All right. Well, we do have other big college football news that we have to discuss. Let's put a bow in the national championship. Obviously, you guys can talk about it more on Coast to Coast on Saturday morning. If you guys aren't listening, you got to tune in. Is it safe to say the greatest or one of the greatest college coaches of all time just retired 2 hours ago?
No, he's the GOAT.
Very safe.
He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT.
Nick Saban walking away from Alabama. This was shocking to me. Seeing that his team was just in the college football playoff, the way Alabama's program's been run over the course of the years, I'm going to ask 2 questions. And obviously we can give Nick Saban his roses as we do this. But there's 2 main questions that come out of it. Number 1, is he really done? And number 2, who replaces him at Alabama?
I mean, for me, question number 1, I think, is easy. Yes, he is really done. I don't think you walk away from this Alabama team. Not saying that they would have been like the odds-on favorite to win the Natty next year, but they would have been a really good team. I know they're losing some key pieces to the draft, but just like Alabama does every single year, they retool. And the quarterback that they're bringing in, Julian's saying, like, once Jalen Milroe's done after this year, he's going to be a great quarterback at Alabama as long as they bring in the right coach. So I think if he's walking away from that job, there is no other job to do. Like, why would Saban come back and want to rebuild an organization or something like that when he's already set the standard at Bama? He has everything he could ever want there in Alabama. So I think he is really done. And then number 2 for me, I think the guy that replaces him is the head coach at Ole Miss. I got Lane Kiffin jumping ship after having a great transfer portal class and getting a bunch of great recruits in this portal. I think he leaves Ole Miss high and dry at the opportunity to join the biggest name in the SEC.
Okay.
I'm gonna agree with Cottrell on the first one. I think it's yes. I mean, you don't. This isn't a situation where you're like, all right, I had a really good run. Maybe I'll take a couple years off. Not to. This isn't like an Urban Meyer situation where he left like a pretty like he left a top 10 program, took a couple years off, and then resurfaced up in Ohio State. There is no better situation than Alabama. So if he wanted to keep coaching, he just would have kept coaching there. He's a guy that was never going to get fired or anything like that. He would have stayed there as long as he wanted to stay there. So I believe he's done. I believe you kind of go back in hindsight now and look how we talked about this team at the end of the year. And I think that's why he decided it was time. I think he was, to go out on a loss like that in overtime and still talk about the other things, not so much on the field, the way he talked about this team, about how they came together and, how he had a group of kids that, kind of had to, their backs against the wall and, started to play together and really kind of, have one mission in mind and all those type things. He looked at it as it was one of his better coaching jobs. And I think it was kind of a feel good moment for him that he got that team into the college football playoff. And it was a good ending note for him. Obviously the loss wasn't, but I don't know, short of, for his standard, short of winning another national championship, I don't know if there's really a good time for him to go out. So I don't know if he wanted to spend another year or two, waiting to get back there and having a chance to do that. He just decided it was time, and he's earned that right. In regards to who replaces him, I think Lane Kiffin's on that list. I think that's a goddamn mistake. That's just me. But it would be the most fitting thing in the world for him to get all those kids to come to Ole Miss and get people to spend money and him be like, "See ya, I'm out of here. I'm going to Alabama." It is literally the most Lane Kiffin thing ever.
It would be. It'd be a very Lane Kiffin thing to do.
It is.
I have two absolutely solid names. I need you to give me a name because I'm going to spit them out.
I think obviously, it's interesting because I think a lot of the obvious names, are you going to go with somebody, Sark's name's already been brought up, but he's going to the SEC with Texas down, and he's going to be a top 5 or 6 team next year. Like,
you're cheating. You're cheating.
I'm not cheating.
Give me a name.
I hate to say it, but I think the two guys, that are joining the Big Ten this year. Well, 2 of the 4 anyway. I think they're 2 names you have to watch. I think you have to look at Kellen, and I think you have to look at Dan Lanning.
God damn it! Why? I wanted you just give me 10 names. Dan Lanning. That's the guy going to Alabama. Sorry, Alex. He's gone. And if it's not Dan Lanning, I think it's Dan Lanning. That's my pick. Official pick, locked in. That's my one. Second pick, I'm telling you right now, it sits really, really tough in this guy's heart that he coached an undefeated team and they didn't make the college football playoff. Look out for Mike Norvell to be the head coach at Alabama. That's my 1B. Because Alabama is the job in college football. And sorry, Oregon, you might have a great job, but it's not the job.
But why is it the job though? Like it's the job because of Nick Saban. Like that
it wasn't the job before he got there. So
yeah, exactly. So I do think there will be a drop. I get it. It's the hot job right now. It's the best. I'd say it's the best job in college football. Because you're not going to have openings at these other huge schools. But Alabama, they won't be the Alabama that we've been used to seeing for this past decade. Like they're going to come back down to reality here a little bit.
Well, it depends.
I think the interesting. Well, here's the really big issue. If you take somebody away from Ole Miss, Texas, Oregon, Washington, or even Florida State, Kirby Smart's another ex-assistant. I don't think he would leave Georgia. I think he's going to Atlanta, so I don't think it matters. But
you really think Kirby's going to Atlanta?
I'm starting to read it more and more. I think I'm not saying he takes it. I'm not saying he leaves, but I think he's going to interview. The conversation is definitely going to be had. That's another one. Does he go home? He's another guy that started under Saban. Does he go home? He got Georgia. He's
built his home. I don't think there's anywhere Kirby Smart's going. He built his Georgia just like Alabama's Alabama. Georgia's becoming Georgia. He built his home. I don't know why you would tear down your home to go to a rival school in which you've built arguably a better program right now.
People do it all the time.
Money talks.
But I think Georgia can pay him just as much. All the with the national championships and everything that they mean to that state, that fan base is rabid.
It is, but Alabama booster money is. It's done when the wallets have to come open, they come open real quick. So if I will say this, I'm not saying Kurt. It's just another name that he's linked to the program. I'm not saying he goes, but it's also though if they call, like, you have to pick up the phone. I mean, it's it's tough, and they'll throw enough money that you really gotta.
So let's see how close we get, though.
I'm also curious.
Charles Lane.
Yeah.
Bill has who you going with? Your official pick?
My official pick is Kellen DeBoer.
Kalen DeBoer. And my official pick is Dan Lanning. But and then my 1B is Mike Norvell. Do you want to go with a little 1B? Well, 1B?
I got two names that I would float out there. My 1B officially is going to be Jimbo Fisher, just because he's just sitting on the pine. I think that could be a guy who, going back to the SEC, make a ton of sense, especially if coaches don't want to leave their current situation right now. Then the other one that I could think of is, again, we're talking about that Alabama tree. Bill O'Brien's about to be out of a job if Bill Belichick ends up leaving.
No chance.
Leaving
New
England. No shot. Bring him back down there. No way.
Half the program hates him.
I understand that, but now with Saban leaving, though, you got to think a lot of these kids are probably about to hit the portal when it opens back up anyway. So I don't know what his relationship is with the higher up brass.
I know he doesn't have a good relationship with Milroe.
Yeah, but now that Milroe's leaving, now that Saban's leaving, Milroe might be like, "Hey, I'm about to hit the portal. Like, I want to go play for a different." Like, I'm just saying, it's a whole bunch that can go into it.
If that Rose Bowl will be the dumbest thing he could do. Bill O'Brien, I can't even tell you how shocked I would be if Bill O'Brien was going there. Yeah, the interesting part
he was there when they won a national championship. He was with Mac.
I think Bill O'Brien is a great coordinator, and I think he was fine at like Penn State. He'd be fine at a school like that. I don't know if he's the guy you bring in to try to fill the shoes of Nick Saban. That's a lot for me. The curious part about this is going to be you have a whole bunch of kids now that are going to have make decisions really fast. And obviously, Alabama, I'm sure they are on the phone already and talking to whoever they want to talk to, because you're going to have to hire somebody really quick to keep a lot of those kids there. And that's why I think it's going to be a name. Jimbo Fisher, I think, is nuts because I don't think that dude can coach his way out of a fucking paper bag. So him going there, I think, would be nuts. But he is a big name. I don't know. I mean, he's a big enough name to probably keep a lot of those kids from hitting the portal. And then the sad part about this is there is going to be one other major program that is absolutely going to be screwed here in about a week because their coach is going to leave to go to Alabama. And then all those kids are going to be put in the same spot the Alabama kids are now. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be nuts. I'm a little shocked that he just made this decision and, kind of
a week.
Yeah. I mean, it's just really bad timing, and obviously, he sat down with his wife. I know he loves hanging out with his grandkids and everything. So, I mean, I guess it just dawned on him that now was the time. But do
you think he'll take an advisory role somewhere? Do you think he'll be on like college football game day, or do you think he just goes home and you should never hear from him again?
I think I could see him like SEC Network or something like that. Yeah, but I don't think he takes advisor position where he has to be in the building every day. I don't see that happening at all. I think he's like a correspondent on like SEC Network or CBS or something like that.
A lot of those jobs are kind of, they're not. They give you a title so they can keep you in the program and keep paying you. But I mean, he shows up to work one day a week type thing, and that's there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of colleges do that, at the end for really big coaches like this. So. Yeah, but I could easily see him on, the SEC Network or ESPN. I mean, they're going to kind of be the same thing now. But, he's good on TV. He's fun. He's got a very dry sense of humor. So, and I mean, you're not going to get better knowledge from anybody. So, he will probably make a lot of money in TV if that's what he wants to do.
Well, speaking about moving to an advisory role, we got to move on. And I need to move on to somebody that is apparently going to move with thought process. He's not moving to it. Listen, I'm gonna make a statement for you guys. Pete Carroll was fired. Pete Carroll was not. Listen to that press conference. I'm serious. This just happened a couple hours ago. Pete Carroll was fired. Don't let them mutually parted. He might move to a front office. No. Pete Carroll listen to a press conference. He was fired from Seattle, which is a terrible, terrible idea. But I understand the thought process, right? You got a guy that's going to be a head coaching candidate that was already in the building in Dan Quinn. And you're saying I can get it younger, I can keep the culture the way it is. I think that's the very likely move for Seattle. I think they hired Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn to be their next head coach. But Pete Carroll being fired from Seattle, being the organization's greatest coach, and I think overachieving the last 2 years, that Seahawks team, is to me very surprising. And when you listen to his press conference, like it was like Seattle's ownership was like, we don't want to get shit for this. So we're gonna say we're mutually parting ways, and you might move into an advisory role. We never know, Pete. And I think that's there if Pete doesn't get a head coaching job. Here's what just became very different to me. I think that Pete Carroll ends up taking that job from Antonio Pierce in Las Vegas. And I think that that's the exact thing Las Vegas loves to do, is get that big name in there. And I think that's exactly where he goes. Pete Carroll being fired is the second worst firing this week, behind another guy we'll talk about shortly with Mike Rabel. But it's a terrible firing for Seattle. The guy's obviously still got it. He coached his ass off to get that Seattle team where they're at the last 2 years with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. I'm not a fan of it. I would have got him a quarterback and seen what he could do. But what's your thoughts on the Pete Carroll firing? Because we're going to call it like it is. We're not calling it mutual.
I kind of disagree. I think that they wanted to fire him, but I also think they do want to keep him in the building. Like, I think they like his thought process about things. And the other part of reality is the guy's 72 years old. And I understand he could still coach, but like, he's not going to be able to do this forever. And yeah, Geno's been overachieving with Pete Carroll, and, you know, they've had some success here, but let's be real, that's not winning a Super Bowl. And we talk about it all the time on the show. You want to marry your quarterback to your coach, and I think this gave them the opportunity to do that. So as far as Pete goes, I don't think that he actually takes another head coaching job. I think he does go into the Seahawks front office, similar to what we saw with Brad Stevens over with the Celtics. Like, yeah, he really got fired, but they moved him up to the front office, and he's still getting credit for what he's doing over there. I think it's going to be a very similar thing here. I think Seattle's going to go with a new coach. Then they're going to get a quarterback this year that the coach wants to be down for, and they're going to try and build that relationship now, because even if it wasn't this year, Pete Carroll was probably headed out the door sometime soon. So I think they got in front of it in a year where a lot of quarterbacks are coming out.
I'm going to read you this quote because I disagree with you. Carroll was on Seattle Sports 7:10 a.m. and he said, "I plan on coaching this team." This is Monday morning. This is just 2 days ago. "I told you I love these guys. And that's that's what I would like to be doing and see how far I can go. I'm not worn out. I'm not tired. I'm not any of that stuff. I need to do a better job, and I need to help my coaches, and we need to do a better job of coaching. And there's a lot of area for improvement." I don't believe you when you say that this is not
I didn't say
firing.
It wasn't a firing. I said it was a firing. I said I thought it was a firing, but I also think that Seattle wants to keep Pete Carroll in house. Like, I think that was a real thing. Like, I don't think they just said that just to save face. Like, I think they would build a role for him so he could still be around the guys, because he has an impact clearly on the guys in that locker room. So
I see.
That's just where I'm at with it.
The question I ask then is, this is why I agree with Gene on this. The question I ask then is, if you're that dead set on carving out a role for him to keep him around the guys, because he has such a great impact on the guys, you're then telling me that however you want to sum up the last two seasons, you're putting it at the feet of Pete Carroll. And I mean, I think anybody who knows the game would look at those two teams and say both those teams overachieved. And you mentioned about marrying a GM, or a coach with a quarterback. Where are they picking this year? Like 15, 16, somewhere down there? Who are you getting there? Who are you getting there that you're bringing that some head coach is going to drool over, that they want to come in and build a franchise around there? Like, because honestly, you're talking, assuming JJ declares or something like that, you're talking about somebody like that. And I don't think that's ideal for him.
But that's
So
not all that's there though. Like you have to think like two of the teams in the top 5 potentially two teams in the top 5 have quarterbacks that they're sold on. I mean, the Cardinals or the Bears, if they want to, the Bears still obviously up in the air, but the Cardinals have pretty much gotten behind Kyler Murray at this point and say he's going to be our franchise quarterback moving forward. So the Bears are also going to be, in that decision where they have to pick if Justin Fields is their guy or not. But those could potentially be two teams where you trade up and you can get, I'm not necessarily saying you get, Caleb Williams at number 1, but there are other quarterbacks you can move up in this draft because there's teams that are higher up there that still already have their quarterback.
There's a ton of teams in the top 10 that if they want to take quarterbacks, they're going to take quarterbacks. It's not just Chicago. I mean, Arizona's not going to take a quarterback.
But I'm saying
you have Chicago, you have the Giants, you have New England, you have all these teams that need quarterbacks. So, again, it just seems like the situation makes no sense because now you're going to bring a new guy in and be like, oh, hey, we just traded all your draft picks for this year, next year to go up and get a guy. So the whole thing stinks to me. I have a hard time believing you're telling me that the reason this team wasn't successful was because of Pete Carroll, and that's pretty much what you told me by firing him. So, and again, I mean, I don't. I guess if does Dan Quinn make that team better?
I don't think he does.
Does Dan Quinn make that team better with Geno Smith as your quarterback? No.
I think that Seattle is going to go the route of the free agent quarterback this year and with a new coach. And I think that they'll go the route of getting a quarterback through that.
But who's out there that we know of?
That'll be really interesting to find out in March. I don't know. And we can talk about that after they name the next coach and see what that direction's going to go. But at pick 15, 16, you're not getting a franchise quarterback right now because the top 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. Caleb's going 1, whether it's to the Bears or not. You got Drake May going 2 and Jaden Daniels going 3. That's what you're getting. I'm going to let you guys know now. And by the way, if you pick in the top 3 in the NFL draft anymore and you don't either trade back or take a quarterback, you're a fool. You're a fool. I don't care how good Marvin Harrison Jr. is. Trade back to 4 because teams are hungry and starving to get quarterbacks, and they're overpaying year after year for those top picks.
I disagree wholeheartedly. I think if the talent is there, I'm not saying you get Marvin Harrison Jr.
All right. Let me give you an example since you disagree wholeheartedly.
Okay.
Is the drop-off from Jaden Daniels to Bo Nix bigger than it is from Marvin Harrison Jr. to Roma Duzia?
I mean, at quarterback for sure, but I'm not talking about Marvin though. Like that's what I'm bringing up here. Like in general, like you get sometimes guys like, for example, like 2017 is the perfect draft class to think about.
Okay.
Myles Garrett went number 1 in that class. Cleveland thought they already had their quarterback. The Bears picked that pick 2. They got Mitch Trubisky, but the other quarterbacks in that class, you had Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm just saying, I think it depends on the year that's going on. You can't just say out there that, hey, you got to trade back for
Browns knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to be Patrick Mahomes.
Of course.
Patrick Mahomes won.
The Bears wouldn't have took Mitch Trubisky either, though, and that's my point.
Today's day and age, and I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 years, and 2017 kind of fits in that. If you're not taking a quarterback, you should trade back because the assets that teams are giving up to get into the top 3 to get their quarterback. Look at what San Fran gave up to get Trey Lance, who's already off the team. It's going to happen year in and year out. And by the way, I got news for you. If the Bears do trade their pick and do keep Justin Fields, the Patriots are going to trade for it.
That would be the smartest thing the Bears could ever do. And then they should trade down one more time.
I agree.
And get that King's ransom from
somebody else.
Who's at 3 or 4?
From Atlanta at 10.
No, I say 3 or 4 because I think you still want to get best player available that's not a quarterback.
Yeah, okay, but you say that, bro. But I'm telling you right now, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is 4 and you can get Roma Duzia at 10 and pick up an extra first and second round draft pick, I'm okay with the drop off. I'm all right with the drop off.
That's not the mindset you got to get talent. Teams that don't have talent not saying that Rome's not talented, but you got to go get soup. Like, think about the drop off. Jamar Chase, we saw how that class was, Jamar Chase, but think about the drop off from Jamar Chase to Jalen Waddle. Not saying it's crazy, not saying Jalen Waddle's a bad player, but it's a huge difference. Jamar Chase helped the Bengals go to the Super Bowl his first year.
I don't think
Jalen Waddle now is
between Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle. I don't think it's a huge difference at all. And there's 3-year stats would prove to you that's not.
I guess that's where we disagree.
You think there's a huge difference between Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle?
I think there is a sizable difference, yes.
I don't.
I've never heard anyone ever talk about Jalen Waddle in the light of a top 5 receiver in the league.
I think Jamar Chase is a top 5 receiver. I think Jalen Waddle is a top 10 receiver. And I don't think that's a huge difference.
It's tough. I mean, I think
Chase Miami didn't think
definitely top 5, but like here's what I'll say. I mean, this is all dependent upon how you guys define huge difference. But I will say this: when people mention the elite category of wide receivers, Chase is in that with Jefferson, Tyreek, and all that. Waddle's not, and I'm a huge Waddle guy. I'm a huge Waddle guy. If you're asking me which one I'd rather have, it's Chase all day.
You'd rather have Chase, yes. But, like, I don't know, man. If I had Tyreek Hill on my team, I think I'd rather have Waddle.
But you didn't originally have Tyreek Hill, though. Like, you drafted Jalen Waddle to be your number 1, and then you said, hey, we probably need another guy, and you go get a bona fide top 10 receiver in the league.
Well, you drafted T. Higgins, and you got Jamar Chase.
Yeah, in the second, you drafted T. Higgins in the second round. You didn't give up a first-round pick for a top.
Miami just basically gave their first-round pick up to get their other guy.
I guess again, I think Gene's theory isn't wrong in that, like, okay, like if you go, if I trade from 1 to 4 and I get 2 extra 1s and 2 extra 2s, and pick Marvin Harrison, is that better, or is it better to go down to 10, get a Dunze, and get 2 more 1s and another 2, and then come out of this draft with a Dunze and 5 number 1s the next 2 years and 3 extra 2s? That's a lot. It's a lot of value. So it's that's a hard decision. That's why GMs get paid a lot of money. I mean, I've been outspoken with how good I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is. So, and I think there's a gap between the two of them. But I'm not saying it's huge, but I think he's definitively the best wide receiver coming out in this draft.
Okay, I guess we'll find out. Then another head coaching firing that we have to talk about is, and I don't understand how this happened, Mike Vrabel got let go. Out of all the coaches that kept their job, Dennis Allen kept his job. But Mike Vrabel got let go? That would be like me coming over to Shally's house and be like, dude, Shally, I need like a 5-star meal. I need I need the best meal ever. I'm feeding the president of the United States. I'm going to give you some 93% lean ground beef, 2 cups of canned baked beans, and some bagged rice. You make this shit work. Come on, Shally. Because that is what I look at when I say what Mike Vrabel's done with that team is absurd to have them competitive. I don't understand how that happens. I think that the Titans firing their general manager last year told you everything you needed to know. So I don't think Mike Vrabel remains unemployed very, very, very long. I think he becomes the Patriots' next head coach when Bill Belichick ultimately steps away this week. That's just opinion. Obviously, I could be wrong. Belichick could stay there. I could have egg on my face. But the head, there's so many guys I expected to lose their job that didn't. And then there's guys that I'd never expected to lose their job that did. What are your thoughts on Mike Vrabel being out in Tennessee?
I think what's going to happen here in the next week is going to be very interesting. I would say next Wednesday, we will probably have a lot to talk about. Vrabel was surprising. No, same. I mean, it's just, I think it's, I mean, obviously some of these guys are going to probably have jobs by the time we come back on air next week. Mike Vrabel was very surprising to me for a lot of the reasons, you already said. I think it was a team, and it was a guy that got a team to overachieve pretty much every year. Yeah, you had Derrick Henry. You know, the GM traded away A.J. Brown. Obviously, I know you brought Hopkins in, but, I mean, Tannehill kind of became their franchise quarterback. Like, I really don't know how far you thought that was going to go. And Tennessee, every year, if they made the playoffs, that was a team that nobody wanted to play. They were going to play defense. They were going to make it an ugly game. Never heard any one of his players have a bad word to say about him. And the fans down there, I mean, you know, I read a lot of stuff today online that they were shocked. You know, the fans were definitely behind him and wanted to give him one more year with kind of, you know, hoping what was going to be a little bit of a rebuild right away, because obviously Derrick Henry's not going to be on the team next year. But they wanted to see, you know, what they were going to be able to do with Will Levis for a full year with D-Hop and, you know, kind of build around there. I mean, the defense still wasn't bad. Not great, but, you know, that was a surprising one to me. And again, I think he's a hard-nosed type guy that, you know, he can, you know, capture a locker room and guys want to play hard for. I don't think he will be a guy that will be unemployed very long if he doesn't want to be.
I think for me, this job was very telling by what Vrabel was saying throughout the season. So towards the end of the season, you know, I remember reporters were asking him like, "Hey, like, what's going on here?" And he's like, "You know, we suck. Like, we just got to be better. Like, we're going to go out here. We're going to keep trying our best and, you know, try and win football games." I think the conversation was had behind closed doors after the season ended. They beat the Jags, and Mike Vrabel was like, I can get these guys inspired. Like, we can win football games here. I do not want to be a part of a rebuild. I hate the way the direction of this team is going. So we need to fix it. Like, I've never been a loser. I'm not going to start being a loser now. And I hate that mentality that we have. And I feel like the owners were like, hey, we're in a rebuild. We're going to do things the right way. We're not going to spend a ton of money. So if you don't like that, then you can hit the road. And that's just how that conversation ended.
The way Amy Adams Strunk handled this is the worst way possible. She made the decision to let him go, not the general manager. She made the decision to let him go and then had the general manager speak at the podium. That was terrible.
No,
you don't make
that's
that
what
decision.
I'm saying. That's exactly why I don't think it was hey, we don't feel like you're doing the job adequately. I think it was Mike Vrabel and the ownership had that conversation, and they did not see eye to eye about the future of that team.
I do want to address Dylan's
you already see that
comment
he
real
wants
quick.
to walk. So
Derrick Henry's gone. He's going to go play for a playoff team for 1 year. He doesn't have much left in the tank. I do want to address Dylan Busby's comment right here. He said, big setback for a team that would have competed for the division next year. I'm going to make a statement, and you guys are first, you're going to say, oh my God, you're wrong. And then you're going to think about it and be like, you're probably right. The Tennessee Titans is the worst job out of any head coaching vacancy in the NFL. It's the worst job. The worst.
It's funny you just said that, because my next point was going to be how much of a bad situation there is, because I don't think they realize how unattractive that job opening is.
It's the worst one out of all of them.
I think they're in
the next thing I was going to say.
I think Tennessee is in the exact same boat as Washington.
Yeah,
that's fair. But Tennessee doesn't have the second overall pick to replace their quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say with the draft capital that Washington has and new ownership there, I would say I would take Washington over.
I get the new ownership, but
Tennessee.
I'm saying like being in a division, you got your I mean that's
dominance
and all that stuff. I would just say I think those are pretty equal. I don't think that's crazy.
Somebody said to me Carolina earlier, like that's the worst job. And I said to myself, look, you're right. Carolina is probably a bad job. David Tepper is a terrible owner. It's not a great fan base to begin with. It's a terrible job, right? Would you rather take over a franchise that just drafted a quarterback first overall and be able to try to develop him like Mike McDaniel did with Tua? Or would you rather take over a franchise where you don't know who's going to be a quarterback next year? Because I guarantee you this, they're going to have to sell the new head coach on saying Will Levis is your guy. And then that head coach is going to go in there and be like, I don't know if he's my guy. He might be my guy, might not be my guy. You're not marrying the coach to the quarterback. Whereas David Tepper's made it very clear. If you didn't think Bryce Young was the number one pick in this draft, you're fired. So everybody in that building is behind Bryce Young. So the only coaches that will, by the way, them interviewing Brian Johnson, I'll talk about that. That could be a you got to be kidding me, because that's a joke. They're doing that to exercise the Rooney Rule. They will never hire him. and it's bullshit that they're doing it. But let me just off topic. Carolina is interesting in the sense that they have last year's number 1 overall pick. I would rather coach Bryce Young than Will Levis.
Carolina has better bones than Tennessee does.
Absolutely. I find it very interesting that you let a coach go from, and by the way, it might be the biggest blessing ever to happen to Mike Rabel.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you he'll be top on I think he'll have his choice of 2 or 3 teams to go to when he's interviewing.
And I think the other thing too is that, I mean, he's put himself in a position where I don't think he doesn't have to take a job if he doesn't want to. So even if this coaching cycle, he's like, yeah, there's not, he doesn't see eye to eye with the GM or the ownership. Like, he doesn't have to take a job now. And he's still
Correct.
Next year in the coaching cycle, he's going to be the number 1 name. Or maybe we see him wait a little bit and he sees like, hey, maybe a team in the playoffs loses before, their expectations, and they end up firing a coach, and I can go to a playoff team that has the talent in place and be a head coach there. So
I don't think he just means Philadelphia, though, Bill. I know you smirked like that. I don't think he just means Philadelphia.
I wasn't saying. Well, I was laughing.
The funny thing is that I wasn't even talking about Philadelphia.
You could have been. That's what I'm saying.
It could have been, but like Dallas is another one of them. I'll tell you right now, if the Cowboys lose in the first round of Green Bay, McCarthy's fired
for sure.
He's gone.
And I debate if they lose at home in the playoffs, I think he still would be gone.
They lose in round 2 to Philadelphia. That would be a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, that's not going to sit well with Jerry Land.
Yeah,
but it's just interesting. And guys, I just kind of want to quickly. We don't have to break it down. But I kind of want to get on record where we're going because we got to move. We got to get in these wild card games. We're going to break down all 6 of them. But I kind of want to get on record where we think these head coaches are going to go. Just a name for each one of us to say. I'm going to give a job that's open. You just give me one name, and then if obviously we can break it down a little bit deeper next week. But I just want one name. Is that cool with you guys? Just so we have it on record in case anything happens before next show.
Sure.
All right, I'll start with Carolina. I'll go first. Ben Johnson. I think he's the next head coach.
Ben Johnson is also on my list here.
Yeah, it seems like those stars are going to align. So yes.
Okay. The Washington Commanders. I'll start because I had this prepared and I didn't give you guys that much notice. I'll go with Bill.
I got mine prepared.
Bill Belichick.
Ooh.
Brian Flores.
I love that. I really do.
I love too.
I would love that.
I'm going somewhere else though. I'm gonna be the optimist of the group and say they do the right thing. I'm gonna say Eric Bieniemy.
Well, I don't think Eric Bieniemy goes there because I've been on record saying the Atlanta Falcons will hire Eric Bieniemy.
I got Kirby Smart.
For fun, I'm going Kirby Smart.
I love that you guys have that. The Las Vegas Raiders.
That is.
I think they do the right thing. I got Antonio Pierce.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I don't think they do the right thing.
I'm on record saying that's what they should do. I'm going to be the optimist and say that they give Antonio Pierce like a two-year contract.
That's what they should do. But I think they hire Pete Carroll. The Los Angeles Chargers.
Jim Harbaugh.
Brian Flores.
You had to give a different answer.
By
the way, wouldn't that be something if Flores landed in the Chargers, the quarterback he originally wanted in the Tua draft? That would be really interesting.
I'm telling you. Listen, here's what I'll say about Jim.
Very interesting.
Here's what I'm going to say about Jim. I thought coming in, there was realistically 2 jobs he would take. I thought Chicago was one of them. That's not happening now. I think the Chargers is the other one. I wouldn't be surprised. I've heard him talk about Herbert before, and obviously it sets up ideally for him. But I don't know if he's going to get, Gene's talked about it numerous times. I don't know if he's going to get along with that ownership family because they're idiots. And I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to drag the family across country again. I really don't. I think Chicago could have worked out, logistically a little bit better because it's not really that far from Ann Arbor. I'm not going to be surprised if he goes to the Chargers, but I honestly think that is the only team left that he will go to. If he doesn't go to the Chargers, I think he stays in Michigan.
All right, my last one. I'm just adding this because I have him leaving. You guys can stay with Belichick, but I'm going to go to New England Patriots, and that's where I have Mike Vrabel landing.
We still got 2 other jobs though.
What did we miss? What did I miss?
Tennessee and Seattle.
Oh, I apologize. The Seattle one just came up. The New England Patriots. I'm saying Mike Vrabel.
Patriots. I got Bill, and they hire a GM.
Okay. And what do you have, Bill?
I was going to say, if they move on from Bill, I think it's Vrabel. I think that's just too easy. I agree with Cottrell, though. I think Bill stays for one more year. They try one more year, and he just has no GM capacity anymore.
The Seattle Seahawks, I have Dan Quinn. Said that earlier in the show.
I agree with you on that one. I think it makes too much sense.
I think that's the Mike Vrabel job.
Okay. And then the last one would be the Tennessee Titans, which honestly, I'm going to just say Brian Flores because it'd be criminal for him not to get a job. I don't think there's any chance he gets hired in Tennessee. But I'll just say Brian Flores because I need to put him somewhere.
I think with Tennessee, I think what they showed me is that they're going to for sure hire a rookie head coach, a guy that they can at least somewhat control for the time being. And I got that guy being Mike McDonald from the Baltimore Ravens.
Mike McDonald is a very interesting name.
All right, well, it's 8:08. We got to preview playoff games. Let's get into them. We're rolling. We got to roll.
Rolling.
All right, so what are we going? This is the last. Go back. Shally, it looks like he's taking down the NFL standings for the year long. We still will have Pick'em for the playoffs, but this is the year long NFL standings. Shally's got it, and Cottrell finished second, and I finished dead last this year. First time in the show's history.
Illustrious history.
That's all right.
Illustrious history that Gino is not on top.
It's fair. We got to go wild card weekend. We got some games to break down. First game on the docket Saturday afternoon. I love that Cottrell did these in order. Is Cottrell's Browns.
I didn't do it in order. I got to give the credit to where it's due. Yeah. This is all Alex.
I black, baby.
All right, well, let's go to the preview.
Damn, no love from Gene.
I love I black. The guy's the man, but I'm sorry. I have
a we gotta go.
He's like, move the slide, damn it.
Browns at Texans. Joe Flacco at CJ Stroud. We've seen this matchup just a few weeks ago without CJ Stroud. Stroud's back. Texans are looking good. Who do you like in this one? I'll start with Homer Simpson.
I like Cleveland win the game. I think this would be a different game if Tank Dell was playing. I think defensively, the Browns really just have to focus on not letting Nico Collins be the guy to beat them over the head. I think this guy. I think they did a good job in that first matchup. Obviously, I know CJ Stroud wasn't there. CJ, of course, is going to make bigger plays in this game, but I ultimately just like the Browns defense to shut down what that Houston offense is going to throw at them. I like them to win a lower scoring game. I say like 24-17, 24-14, something along the lines of that.
The one thing that stood out to me in this game was Amari Cooper got off rather easily versus the Texans. I'm going to go with the Browns. I do think this is a lot more low-scoring game than the regular season was. It's the first game wild card weekend. They always start slow. This is not anything new. I think the Browns defense is just too good. I think the Browns defense, and I think Joe Flacco doesn't make these mistakes. I think it sets up for one of the best matchups you can get in round two. I'll take the Browns. I love that. The Browns versus Ravens semifinal. And I guess maybe because the story sounds good, I'm going to go Browns.
This is going to be a lot easier game for me to pick because, I think we all assumed it was going to be Jacksonville before the choke job. But it is – I'm still going to go Cleveland. I think I will say it right now. I think this has the ability to be the best game of the weekend. I think you have two very good defenses. I think CJ Stroud's going to ball out. I'm not going to say Flacco's going to play mistake-free because I think that Texans defense is too good. I think he probably throws at least one. But, Cleveland's pretty healthy on the other side of the ball as well. I think that defense, with really the only threat, that they have to really worry about that can hurt them, big play wise is, Stroud and Nico. So I just like that advantage too much for Cleveland. I'll go Cleveland. Like both you guys said, in a lower scoring game. And I think this comes down to the last possession. I think it's a very, very, very fun football game.
20-17. The Miami Dolphins will play the Kansas City Chiefs Saturday night in temperatures that, if they're lucky, will get up to 0. I said that right. If they're lucky, it'll get up to 0.
Same with wind chill. They're expecting between -20 and -25 at game time.
-4 is what the projected kickoff is, as far as what the temperature would be with wind chill. It's going to be insane. They were talking about moving the playoff game. That's how cold it's going to be.
Yeah,
no way.
They really were, because they're worried about your.
I mean, I get it, but I'm just saying
the balls are going to get so hard you're not going to be able to kick them, and they're literally. There was some guy, I forget, it was online saying, the actual football equipment isn't really tested to that low of a number, and they're worried about guys getting hurt.
The reality of the situation is this is going to be another just cold game at Arrowhead. It probably won't even be that cold. Like, once the temperature actually gets there, it'll probably be like 6 degrees, crazy wind chill, and they're going to run the game how it goes.
Did you not see what happened in the Midwest the last 2 days?
I have for sure.
Trump said it probably won't even be that cold. It'll probably be 6 degrees. That's literally the exact quote.
It won't be in the negatives, is what I'm saying. Like,
it probably won't even be that cold. It'll be like 6 degrees.
I'm saying it now. This will not be the coldest game in NFL history. It's not going to get there.
All right. Well, who do you like in the game?
Cottrell's middle name should be lack of compassion.
It's football. What are we be compassionate about? They got all these rules now making the game soft, but I digress.
Right. Who do you got?
I got the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be more prepared for the elements. This is playoff football in Kansas City. They do this year in, year out. Pat's used to it. Travis is used to it. Those receivers might not be used to it. They drop passes in great weather and indoors, but I think the Chiefs have enough to get it done. I think you're going to see Miami's offense start to struggle, just being in that cold. Plus, 2 of their key playmakers in Waddle and Mostert being hurt. I just think it's going to be too much, even if they play to overcome the Chiefs at home.
Is Waddle not playing? There's no way he's not playing.
I
imagine he plays. I imagine him and Mostert both play, but they're not close to 100%.
I just want to read this out loud because I think it's funny. Questionable Mostert, questionable Achane, questionable Hill, questionable Waddle, questionable Armstead, questionable Eichenberg, questionable Deshaun Elliott, questionable Javon Holland, questionable Jalen Ramsey, doubtful Xavier Howard. Oh, by the way, let me just add this. Bradley Chubb, Jerome Baker, Jalen Phillips, and Vanderbilt, as well as Van Ginkel, are all in the IR.
Yep.
So, and that's not to mention their starting center, Connor Williams, who's been on the IR for a while. This Miami Dolphins team has hit the injury bug on the wrong time. I was going to pick the Dolphins in this football game. I have to go to the Chiefs at this point because of the injury bug. And even if these guys that are questionable, they all play, which I think they all will, they're definitely not 100%. I'll go with the Chiefs. I'll go with Patty Mahomes. And I think another early exit from Miami.
I think outside of Chubb, Van Ginkel being out is so big for them. He was playing such good football. Big fan of his throughout this season.
He was playing well, and he was kind of soaking up a lot of the slack from the previous injuries before him, and now it's you're legit to the 4th level of the depth chart at some of those positions. In the front 7 for Miami.
Good old Riley starting for them.
I really still want to pick Miami.
No one's stopping you.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins. I still think that Kansas City defense is suspect. They haven't put a good offensive performance together in, a month and a half. Travis Kelce doesn't look like he cares too much right now. And to Gene's other point, Ramsey is going to play. Those wide receivers I don't think are going to pose a huge threat to Miami's defense. And even when they are open, they drop the ball half the time anyway. Conditions will not be good. I know I'm picking against Patrick Mahomes at home. and that's crazy. This is kind of like the Texas Washington game to me. There's just something about it. Miami's just in the back of my head. I'll go with the Dolphins to pull the upset.
No, CJ, you're not the only one, because this has been. He said, "Am I the only one that thinks Mahomes isn't likable?" He's become less and less likable in the last year.
Between the annex and that show, he did himself no favors.
None. I think this is the easiest win to pick of the weekend. I'd rather not spend too much time on
I love Mahomes in the show for what it's worth. I do think his annex this season have been a little much, but
the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Buffalo Bills. I don't give Buffalo a snowball's chance in hell. I think Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer falls off the cart. Christmas is over. I think that the Buffalo Bills stomp Pittsburgh. I don't think the game's close. I'll take Buffalo in a blowout.
Okay, you had me worried there. You said you didn't give Buffalo a chance, but I was. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I really don't have much else to add. I don't think the Steelers will be able to move the ball effectively. I think they can run the ball effectively, but come to pass, and Mason Rudolph turned the ball over. I got Buffalo big.
I don't think the Steelers have a puncher's chance, especially with TJ Watt out.
I think the only thing that would neutralize this game possibly would be really bad weather. And I don't think they're supposed to have it up there. So Buffalo is the hottest team in the league right now. I can't see a circumstance where Pittsburgh goes in there and wins this football game.
The only circumstance that I could see is if Josh Allen turns the ball over in non-ideal
7
areas.
times. Pittsburgh might not score.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm just saying you turn the ball over 2-3 times against Pittsburgh's defense. Like, Mike Tomlin's going to have something for you, and they win the games they're not supposed to. I'm just saying, like, that's the only way that I see this game even being close. I got the blowout, but I'm just saying if it doesn't happen blowout, I think Josh Allen's got 3 turnovers.
CJ, why don't you like Josh Allen?
Josh Allen's not the most likable character either. But
I'm asking. I'm not saying he was. I'm just curious.
Green Bay at Dallas. This is, to me, will be the biggest blowout of the weekend. I think this is the easiest game to pick. Lay the 7.5. Dallas is going to beat them by 25. It will not be close. The game's in Jerry World. I don't know if Green Bay is going to be able to score. I know Green Bay won't be able to stop Dallas's offense. This game, the Mike McCarthy revenge game, or whatever you want to dub it as, Dallas wins this game by 100. The NFL can't afford for Dallas to have this game be close. They need another home playoff game in AT&T. I don't know how to tell you this. This is the easiest game to bet during the weekend. Even with Buffalo-Pittsburgh, you can go, well, Josh Allen could turn the ball over 2-3 times. Pittsburgh defense could keep them in the game. This game right here is going to be an absolute slaughter. I think it's 35-6. I really don't think it's close. The love boat is done. And, Dallas moves on to the next round. I think this is I don't think Dallas plays any starters in the fourth quarter. I think this game is just an absolute whitewash.
I think one thing, though, that I disagree with, though, is that the NFL, I get, wanting the game to be at Jerry World, but did you see the ticket price, the lowest ticket price to get into the Lions playoff game? Like, I don't think they're going to be short for any money come ticket sales to go to Ford Field. That's just the one part that I do disagree with there. But listen, I understand the Cowboys are the much better team here, and this should be a blowout. I've seen this story before. I think this game is gonna come down right to that touchdown mark. I think Dallas always has control, but I think Green Bay is always in striking distance. I think Dallas is up 14. Green Bay goes down. They score a touchdown, and it's back to 7. Dallas goes down, kicks a field goal. Green Bay goes down, kicks a field goal, still at 7. I like Dallas to win, but I think this game is closer, a lot closer than what you're expecting, Gene.
I think Dallas wins. I know we could sit here and say,
bet your kid on it. I'm telling you, bet your child, bet your mortgage. Dallas is going to win this game and cover. Just trust me. I told you this earlier with the Lions versus the Broncos. This game might be easier.
I think Green Bay's defense is good enough to hold them in the game for a while. The strength is the secondary, and we've seen Dak do Dak things before. But they're home. They're the better team. My biggest issue is kind of what you guys brought up. I don't think Green Bay is going to be able to move the ball against that Dallas defense with any kind of consistency to really keep them in the game. Maybe a little bit lower scoring than people think, but I think Dallas covers. I mean, 7.5. When these lines came out, I thought this game was going to be double digits all day. And I was shocked that it wasn't. So, Vegas is rarely wrong. So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure there'll be something crazy in this game that happens to make all the people who take the 7.5 lose. But that being said, just looking at this game on the surface, Dallas should win this game by 17 points. And, I'm expecting something close to that.
I'm on the love boat. I think I'm a member. I think I bought my ticket. I'm on the love boat for sure.
I'll say Love definitely throws a pick 6 in this game.
This is, in my opinion, the best game of the weekend. Matt Stafford, cue up the "I'm coming home." Cue up the songs. There's got to be more hype videos. A playoff game in Ford Field. Cue up the Dan Campbell, Matt Stafford, Jared Goff hype videos. "Hello from the Other Side" by Adele. Cue them all up. This game has the potential to be the best football game of entire wildcard weekend. I love this spot. Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Jared Goff revenge game. You gave up on me. Amon-Ra. Dan Campbell. Woo-hoo-hoo. Rams 28. Lions 27. Riley Patterson misses a walk-off 47-yarder.
It's very specific.
I think it's going to be a great football game.
I agree. I am going to go on the Rams boat with you here. I think they are also one of the hotter teams in the league. They even won a game last week. With Carson Wentz. You mentioned, by the way,
looked pretty good.
He did. He actually really did. That's a different topic for a different day, but he did. I think the biggest part of this is I think Kyren Williams is going to have a huge day. I don't think Detroit's going to be able to stop him. I think Stafford is going to, throw the ball off of play action. It's Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and I think the Rams defense, gets enough stops. I think this is a great game. Probably being emotional for a lot of people there. Detroit's, I think it's her first home playoff game in forever. Matt Stafford coming home, like Gene said. I just think the Rams are just a little bit of a better football team, and I think they excel at things that Detroit is not good at. I could easily see Kyren going over 120, 140 type game, 2 touchdowns. I think the Rams are going to control the ball, keep the ball out of the hands of that Detroit offense, and I'll go Rams 27, Detroit 23.
I can't wait. It's going to be such a good football game.
Gene, I will say this. I'm hoping that you're wrong about Riley Patterson missing a game-winning kick this weekend because he is our kicker for the Browns this week. Lions end up letting him go right before their playoff push. So I'm praying you're wrong there. I know you put it out in the atmosphere thinking it was for the Lions, but I'm just putting that out there. Let's get that bad juju cleared up here. But I got the Rams.
Michael Badgley's their kicker. He just missed a kick last week. I don't know. Sorry.
But I got Matt Stafford and the Rams pulling this one out. I think Sam Laporta getting hurt last week is going to be monumental for this Lions offense. I get it. Amon-Ra still a major target for them. J-Mo not being 100% for this game as well. I think you see Jared Goff throw an interception in a spot that, puts the Lions in a really tough spot. And I think the Rams are playing good football right now. So I like the Rams to win this game and move on in the playoffs.
We got one more game to talk about. We have the hapless, disgusting, pathetic Philadelphia Eagles who've lost
hyperextended knee, RJ.
5 of their last 6. Hey, by the way, they said there's a chance he could play, which is insane. But the pathetic, anemic, poorly coached Philadelphia Eagles go into Tampa Bay to take on the hurt, walking wounded, backing into the playoffs by beating Carolina kind of barely, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are the worst two teams playing on Wild Card Weekend. And they're playing each other on Monday Night Football. I have the Eagles winning this football game and getting all of Philadelphia's fan base riled up to go into Dallas and get the shit kicked out of us. Look, I don't want to lie to you. I am trying to be objective. I'm trying to be I have zero faith in this team. But I think that Baker Mayfield isn't accurate enough. And I think he's the wrong type of quarterback to dice up this Philadelphia Eagles defense. I think you need quarterbacks that throw the ball hard. I think you need quarterbacks that throw the ball with accuracy. And I think you can dice up this Philadelphia Eagles defense any week. But I think that the Rams lose this football game. I think Slay being back really helps the Eagles. I think the Eagles win. And I think we all set ourselves up for a 44-6 beatdown in the divisional round.
I mean, we saw this game in prime time earlier in the year, Baker Mayfield. I know it's not the same team, either side, but in that game, you saw what that Tampa Bay offense looked like. And I think that's what they're going to look like come Monday night in this game. I understand the Eagles have been struggling. I don't see Tampa Bay scoring more than 13 points in this game. And I think the Eagles can easily score 14 on that Tampa Bay defense. So I like the Eagles to win rather big in this one, comfy. No, you guys aren't going to love it. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest win by any means, but I see this game being the biggest blowout of the weekend. I like 31-13.
Todd Bowles blitzes the second most in the NFL behind Wink Martindale, who the Philadelphia Eagles have no idea how to pick up the blitz at all.
If you guys are smart, you guys fire.
Bring in Wink. Bring in Wink. Give me Wink.
Wink.
I'll take it.
Stays in the division. Very familiar there.
Who you like in this one, Jolly? You gonna give us a rally cry and tell us the Eagles are gonna make a run?
I'm not doing any of that. I think they're going to win the football game. I think they'll win 27-21. I mean, listen, man, if you watch this defense play the last couple of weeks, I mean, I don't have any hope. I don't have any kind of confidence they're holding anybody to 13 points. Arizona came in here and put 34 on us. So
they had a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rachaad White, last month has been, top 5 running back in the league. And they have weapons outside. I mean, Bradbury's going to be lined up against either Mike Evans or Chris Godwin every play. Don't know if Slay's going to play. It's a lot, man. I mean, they're banged up front. I don't know if they get pressure on Mayfield. One thing we've seen about Baker, if you let him sit back there and give him time to throw the ball, I mean, he can throw the ball. Do I think he's going to do it consistently enough to beat us? Probably not. And the thing that scares me on the other side is the fact that the tidbit Gene just brought up. Jalen Hurts has been awful against the blitz the last month and a half. And that's not simply throwing against it. It's seeing it, it's diagnosing it, it's shifting coverage, it's all of it. He gets pressured and just runs away and throws the ball onto the sideline.
The book on beating the Philadelphia Eagles is so friggin' easy. Blitz him to his right hand, make him roll left, and he can't beat you. It happens blitz him to his right side and have your left end play contain. It's the easiest friggin', I'm telling you. It's the easiest. Dude, I could be a defensive coordinator. Blitz him to his right side, have your left end play contain.
I will give this, the fair warning to the coaching staff here. If this is going to be a Jalen Hurts type of hero type ball game plan, they're not going to win. This needs to be run the ball. You have a huge advantage on the line. Run the ball. When you have a guy that's averaging 5.5, 6 yards a carry in a playoff game, hand him the ball. This game doesn't need to be pretty. You need to win. DeAndre Swift better have over 100 yards. If he goes over 100 yards, the Eagles probably win the game. If this is we could only figure out how to give the ball 12 times for 50 yards. If we're going in one of those BS game plans, Eagles are losing this game, and that entire coaching staff is getting fired, and they should. There's too much talent on this team to go down and lose to Tampa Bay. They need to run the ball. Jalen Hurts needs to wake the hell up, show me some kind of emotion, show me some kind of leadership, do something, and play better than you have the last month. A.J. Brown is not going to be full strength if he does play. Devonta is not going to be full Smith. I know he's going to play. I better not see any of this. Run the ball 2 times in a row for 18 yards and then go bubble screen, bubble screen, bubble screen. I'm over it. I'm over it. They need to call a smart game, not care how it looks like, not care what the box score is going to say. Just win the game and get the job done, and then go and worry about Dallas. If not, you should all get fired. It's that simple to me. The last couple of weeks have just shown glaring weaknesses in this coaching staff, their approach to the game, their lack of accountability. I would dare say motivation, because that team last week didn't look like they gave 2 shits they were playing a football game. Get it done or get out of town. It's really that simple for me.
I'm with it. All right, guys. Got to move on to NBA. We got some Aussie picks for you. For some tennis. And then we got You Got to Be Kidding Me. So, Cottrell, I'm going to have you lead us into the NBA segment with some questions.
Ooh, questions.
All right. So, I guess my first question would be seeing how great Ja looked in his return now that he's out for the remainder of the season. Obviously, I don't think any of us think that the Grizzlies are going to be contenders moving forward, but like how do you guys feel about, Ja being out for the year?
I think
it sucks. It does. You take all the personal stuff away and everything he did. He served a suspension. He's just one of those guys. When he plays, you have to watch him, because he is capable in any moment of any game of giving you something you've never seen before, or something you're just going to say, wow. You saw how much better that team was when he was there. They started 4-0. It's a shame. If he's there, they're a playoff team. I think they would have dug out of that. They would have got in, and then they'd probably been a 7 or 8 seed, or maybe a 6 seed, and they would have given somebody hell in the first round. If you're Memphis now, I don't know what you do.
They just signed Isaiah Thomas for the remainder of the season.
I did see that.
I don't know. I would try to blow it up.
Memphis isn't really a conversation piece anymore, because Ja Morant being out, their team's going to go back to being one of the worst teams in basketball. They're led by Ja. Ja is incredible, and it sucks. And we were talking about him for his basketball again, and not for any off the court stuff. And that was refreshing. That's what I wanted to see and hear. And after the first game, he came back and dominated, and he had the comment like seats. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I will say too, the one thing that I think puts Memphis in a interesting situation is that they do have pieces that they can move on, like maybe come deadline time. They're already going to stink. Like, I see them being high in the lottery, things like that as well. So maybe, recoup, get some first round picks back, or get rid of some expiring contracts and free up some money for next year. So I think this is, while it sucks for them this year, I think in the long term, this might be the reason why Memphis is actually serious contenders moving forward, depending on how they maneuver this situation.
Look, it'll be a good opportunity to fleece that team come trade deadline, because they're going to be sellers.
Marcus Smart being the one piece that I see, like, I don't see him being on the team past February.
Nah, I would trade him to a contender, because he would be a great piece to add to a contender. I honestly, I would tank it the rest of the year and get as high a draft pick as you can, and get another stud to pair with Ja going forward. That's literally their avenue for the rest of the year.
Yep.
Next question being, Draymond Green served a suspension. He's back. What does the outlook on the Warriors season look like now that Draymond's back?
Okay, I'll go first on this one, because I have the unpopular opinion of this, because I know that a lot of people are talking about selling them off and they're done, and Chris Paul now being out 4 to 6 weeks with that broken wrist, and Draymond Green pondering retirement. I I actually do think they finish as a 6 or 8 seed, but I think that they finish in the playoffs, and I think that they give guys. I'll make a statement here, and I'll make it, and it will sound really crazy. I give them a serious puncher's chance to win the NBA Finals. I think that roster is too talented, and they'll put the pieces of the puzzle together by the end of the year. I think that they got to float until Chris Paul comes back. I think they got to tread water and be able to be around the playoff hunt. And I think when they get all their pieces together, I think this team will be in the thick of it. And I really believe that Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, they'll all bounce back and have better years. I really believe that this Warriors team can put it together. And I wouldn't clean house. I would definitely keep the band together for the rest of this year and see what type of run we can make. I really, really, really think that this Warriors team can make a run. I could be wrong. I obviously know that they're below 500 and injuries and this and that, but I just gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you look how successful that core has been. They are the type of team, they just kind of have to get in. If they can get in and, they, like Gene said, they figure something out, figure everything out the next 50 games, whatever they have left. And really get the rotation set, like you said, add Chris Paul back in when he comes back from being hurt. And kind of just focus on playing basketball, and not have all the, not have the Draymond Green stuff that they have to worry about or any off-court stuff, and just really concentrate on doing what they do. It's I mean, that team is talented enough that they get in, they can make noise. I mean, you can't tell me a team led by Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond and Wiggins and all those guys aren't capable of winning a bunch of games in a row if they get hot. I mean, they're too good for that. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but I think you'd be crazy to say that it can't happen.
For me, I think the biggest thing is with this Warriors team, and I don't want to put all the blame on him, but I think Klay Thompson is holding this team back in the sense of they're still relying on him to be that number 2 scoring option on that team, and he's just not that anymore, and he knows that. Andrew Wiggins has turned into a shell of himself, and these are pieces that were supposed to be core pieces for them that are making a ton of money, and they're just not getting what they're getting out what they're paying for him. So I don't necessarily think they should blow it all up. I do think you trade Wiggins in the offseason. I don't think you re-sign Clay, but I think you have pieces to build around. Like Moses Moody, I would insert him into the starting lineup next year. Kuminga would be the guy who I'd be trying to groom to be my true number 2 to run with Steph. I'd keep Draymond around because in a different way, I think he helps build the Warriors culture. Not saying they have like the greatest culture in the league. It's not Heat culture, but like he embodies what that team needs to do. He's going to communicate with everybody, make sure they're on the same page defensively, and he's going to do all the dirty work. So I do think it is going to be good to have a guy like Draymond around. As far as this season goes, I mean, I could see them getting 6 to 8. I can also see them getting 10, making the play-in. I think if they get in the play-in, if one of those teams are at 1, like the Timberwolves, or if the Kings go up to 1, I do think they can go and beat a number 1 seeded team if it's a team like that. But as far as serious championship contenders goes, I just don't see that being the case with the Warriors right now.
Okay. I and it's fine. And I know I'm on my branch. I just think there's so much talent on that roster. And I don't, what happened to Andrew Wiggins? Like, is he just done forever? Or is he really just getting back? I don't know. He looks terrible.
The funny thing is that I view this Warriors team now like your pantry. You got all this good stuff in there, but if you put all the stuff that you like from your pantry, you get your Oreos, and then you get your barbecue sauce and your fruit snacks, and you throw all of it into a blender, it's still not going to make a good smoothie. Like, they just don't have the pieces like they used to have in the past where you put it all together and they put a good product out on the floor. It's just not like that anymore. That's why I don't see them having as high of a ceiling.
Okay.
Next one for me, Wemby, Chet, both been incredible so far throughout their rookie campaigns. At this point in the year, who are you giving the edge to for Rookie of the Year?
All right, so to me, it's very clear that Wemby is going to be the better player. Like, I don't think that's a debate. But because the Thunder are a much better team and Chet's involved in much bigger games, I'm giving it to Chet. I think Chet's played surprisingly well defensively, and I think that's. But every night I watch Wemby, I see something crazy happen, and like even though they stink, right? They're 5-30. I think that I actually think that if to that point, I think the Spurs will end up shutting Wemby down earlier, but I'm going to give it to Chet. He's an instrumental player on a team that's in the thick of the playoffs, and he's a great piece for them right now. I mean, he's averaging 2.6 blocks per game. That's incredible.
So I kind of on the surface agree with you. I think Chet in one way has the advantage to winning the award because he's going to be on the better team. But to some degree, I think it goes in Wemby's favor as well, playing on that awful team, putting up the points and the numbers that he's putting up. He's going to get a lot of the benefit of the doubt with the voters that way. I definitely agree with you. I think Wemby's going to be the better player. Assuming San Antonio lets him play the season out and they don't shut him down, I'm still going to go with Wemby. I think Wemby's going to get a lot of, for lack of a better term, he's going to get a lot of sympathy votes because playing on such a terrible team.
I mean, I do agree with you in the sense that I think Chet will get more love being on a playoff team. But right now, for me, I picked Chet to win Rookie of the Year before the season started. But for me, I got to go Wemby just because of the streak that he's been on as of late. Like that game, watching him go back and forth with Giannis was absolutely incredible. And just seeing I've seen the growth of Wemby already throughout this season. Like he's already starting to put up those 20, 25 point games rather consistently. And he's averaging 19 and 10. He's still playing under 30 minutes a game. Like for a rookie, I feel like that's borderline unheard of, especially of a rookie of his stature. I understand slow playing and with the size and things like that, injury probabilities, but I think what he's doing the time that he's in there. I know his team isn't winning, but I think just play this season. I think Wemby has the slight edge over Chet so far.
I don't disagree with you. I just think that Chet will end up playing the whole season out. Wemby averaging 3.3 blocks per game is absurd. So we'll see.
And then the last question I got for you guys, we're approaching the halfway point in the season, not quite there yet, but to this point, what teams have surprised you either way, being surprisingly bad or being surprisingly a lot better than what you were expecting?
Well, I mean, if you don't say the Timberwolves being surprisingly good, I don't know what you're watching. I can't believe that they're number one in the West. I still think that
I won't say surprisingly good, but I get being number one though. I never would have saw
they got off to a really, really hot start, and I was like, okay, like that. Some teams just come out of the gate like way better than I thought they were going to kind of plateau off, and they haven't. So yeah, I mean, Minnesota being the number one seed, still, pretty much for the whole course of the season so far in the West, that is, I think like Gene said, I think it's got to be the biggest surprise.
I'll tell you, if I'm not using Minnesota, the biggest surprise to me is Houston Rockets. And just using the Houston Rockets, having Sengun being their leading scorer and them being above 500 through 35 games, I would have never guessed that Sengun would be their leading scorer if they're above 500. Like, nothing against him, but like when I look at that Rockets roster, I could think Jalen Green, I could think Fred VanVleet. I would never have thought it would have been Sengun as their leading scorer, and he's played out of his mind. I think he's averaging like 22 and 10, something around that nature. For him, that's incredible. Give him Udoka all his roses, all the credit in the world. They're in the middle of the playoff hunt, and they had They had the worst record in the league last year. Yeah, I'll go the Rockets.
Just keep him out of the front office. Should be fine.
I don't want to go with the Rockets because I saw this coming with them. I had Ime Udoka winning Coach of the Year. And Sengun, I saw it in the making. I didn't think it'd be to this extent, but he's really, and I don't want to put this pressure on him or moniker, but he's really great value joker. Like that's what he brings to your team. He can score. He's going to rebound, and he's a very very well passer of the ball. So I like Sengun, but I think surprising to me, I would say, and I don't mean like surprising as in great, but I think the Sixers. I definitely thought it would be great to get rid of James Harden, but I think they've looked great without him. Like at points, I'm like, hey, this Sixers team. I always say I think they need to make another move to be serious contenders for a championship this year, but game in, game out, like I think that production, Kelly Oubre looking as great as he does, and just the way that Nick Nurse has those guys bought in, I would say that they've been my biggest surprise so far.
My biggest surprise on the other side would be how bad the Detroit Pistons are. If I read you this roster, Cade Cunningham, Bojan Bogdanovic, Jalen Duran, Jaden Ivey, Alec Burks, Isaiah Stewart, Marvin Bagley, Osor Thompson, Kevin Knox. If I read you that roster, Killian Hayes, and said, how many wins do you think this team would have? I don't know if you could say 3. Like I would, that's insane.
Nobody would say 3.
I don't think that's a bad roster. I just think they're a bunch of misfit toys in bad places. And listen,
they're a pantry.
Yeah. And it sucks because there's a lot of NBA talent on that team. I don't think they're 3-36 bad. I just don't. And I can't understand it.
And it's weird because they got Monty, and I like Monty. I think he's a good coach.
Yeah, he's going to get fired. He's done.
I mean, you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to get rid of 3-36.
Win 10 games this year? I mean, I think.
What do you do again? You get the number 1 overall pick again.
The only saving
4 top 5 picks on your team.
The only saving grace they could potentially get, and he get one more season, is if they land that number 1. It has to be number 1, in my opinion. Like it can't be top 5 or top 4. Like, it got to be number 1, and they got to get that guy that they really feel like can change their team around in 1 year.
You guys ready for some Aussie picks? Aussie.
Let's do it.
This is so. Listen, I know we address all sports, but I could care. I could not care any less about the Australian Open right now. Like with NFL playoffs going on right now, and it's not against. Like I like tennis in July. I like tennis around Wimbledon. I don't care about the Australian Open, but it's a major and it's a sport that we cover. So you're going to get some picks. And I'm going to be as sarcastic as humanly possible with them. So, Shally, this is your time. I will take a step back, and you can announce where they're playing and all this cool stuff. And it'll be at 3 a.m. and all these people that are going to care. And go ahead.
That's the best. That's the best part. So you get all your football on during the day. Then at night, when nothing else is really going on, you just plop on some major tennis. So yeah, it's the Australian Open, Melbourne, Australia. First major of the year, January every year. Couple interesting storylines coming in this year. Novak's a little banged up. He says he's fine. As always, the heat in Australia plays a big factor. If you can get inside of the draw where you don't play during the day, it's a huge advantage. There's people that handle the heat better than others. So it always factors into the Australian Open, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So, we go to picks. I mean, there's not a huge thing to really break down on this because, like I said, it's the beginning of the season. So, you got Novak going for 25. He already holds the record. Women's, I think the women's draw is going to be very exciting because I think you could literally point to 6 or 7 ladies that could theoretically win this title. Where on the men's side, I think there's 3 guys that are going to win it.
Okay, I agree with that. I think that there's definitely 6 or 7 women that can win the title. I think it's Joker or Alcaraz for men. I think that's all you're going to get. Who's your third?
Jannik Sinner.
I don't think Medvedev's got a chance.
Jannik Sinner is very good, and he's just getting better. He had a really strong second half of the year last year, especially at the end of the year. Made the finals of the Masters against Novak. People, they forget I think he's just turned 22. Big game, big serve, capable of getting off the courts early. He has the weapons to win. Not quite sure if he's there, maturity enough yet, and strategy wise to beat a Novak, stuff like that. But if Novak somehow loses, he is a guy that can make a run. He's very good.
All right, well, where are your picks going? I'm going Joker. I'm going to go bland. I'm going to go white rice. I'm going to go as plain as we can go.
I'm going Joker for the men as well. As long as his wrist holds up. Carlos Alcaraz is, as much as I love him, and I think he's the future of the men's game, along with Sinner and a couple other guys, he's proven the conditions get to him sometimes. I don't know how well he's going to deal with the heat down there. And on top of that, he played no warm-up tournaments coming in. So I like Joker on the men's side. Women's side, I'm going to go – I'm going to stay chalk there as well.
You going Iga?
I'm going Iga. She's been playing lights out the last month.
You were not going to ever get me to pick a women's tournament without going, Coco, do you love me? I'm going Coco. Give me some Coco. Coco Golf, baby.
My dark horse for the women is Miss Rybakina. She's healthy again. Huge serve. She's got a powerful game for that court. So
I'll give you a dark horse.
And I love Coco, obviously. Coco
no,
is
you're not going dark horse here, Gene, because I got to give my picks here first.
Well, you're wrong, because my dark horse is not going to be who you're going to think, but that's okay.
Men's, I got Joker.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a Joker-Medvedev final. Medvedev has played well there. He's seen Joker in the final a couple times already. I think he's going to work to get back there. But, I mean, this is Joker's tournament. Like, I don't know how you could pick against him here. And then as far as the women's side goes, give me Naomi Osaka.
I knew it.
Take the Australian Open plus 2,700. She's already won here twice in years past.
She's down to plus 1,400.
I like the return to come here.
I got a plus 3,300 that will never win, but I feel like I might throw $20 on it. I'll take a long shot, a real long shot in this. Madison Keys, plus 3,300.
Sprinkle some money on Madison Keys to make like the quarters.
Okay.
And then thank me later.
All right. Let's get into You Gotta Be Kidding Me. There's so many this week. There's so many. Control, do you have one?
I feel like I had one earlier, but nothing's.
You forgot it?
Nothing's really.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. Use the Titans.
I got nothing.
What? Come on, you guys are killing me.
Nothing really.
I'm gonna go with a silly one, but I do have one this week.
Good.
After we played the Rose Bowl, Stephen A. Smith got on ESPN the next morning and said that they should move the Rose Bowl to SoFi Stadium.
Oh, what an idiot.
Because it's too hard for people like him that got to fly in and take helicopters and all this other stuff. Listen, no one cares when you show up for college football games. You are not part of the game. No one cares. No one cares that you were there. No one cares that you were there last night trying to get awkward handshakes from Derek Jeter because he didn't want to talk to you either. No one cares, bro. The Rose Bowl is the most prestigious college football game there is every year, no matter who's playing in it. It's got tradition. It's gorgeous. It's perfect, and that's why it's played there. Shut your yap. Talk about basketball or something else that you know something about. Stop talking about college football. You don't belong in it. No one cares what you think. Just shut up.
All right. So I'm back here.
Somebody
I'm going to go. I got to. I'm sorry.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
What is going on with Cottrell today?
Back here. Gene, you got me thinking here.
He's flustered.
Dennis Allen is You Got to Be Kidding Me this week for me with the New Orleans Saints. So obviously Saints got a big win at home against Atlanta to go 9-8. And last play, they got an interception right before the end of the game. Tyrann Mathieu ran it all the way down to the 1-yard line. Dennis Allen, he calls for them to go victory formation. And Jameis Winston and the entire Saints offense is like, we're not doing that. We're not running victory formation. But they also line up in victory formation on the field. But internally, they said, hey, we're going to get Jamal Williams his first touchdown of the year. He led the NFL in touchdowns last year. He hasn't got one all season. We're going to give it to him this time. So they go ahead, give him the ball, but it's out of victory formation here. And then right after the game, Dennis Allen is like, well, I told him the play call was victory formation. They didn't listen to us. That's not how we conduct business here. And I get it. You're a coach. That's what you got to say. In my mind, though, this is a division rival. You're fighting for your playoff life here. If the players say, hey, we want to get a touchdown for Jamal Williams here, I think you get behind them there and you line up in a normal formation, I formation, and you make them try and stop you. But for Dennis Allen to have the disconnect with his players, and I'm not giving them just absolution of blame here, but for me this week, Dennis Allen and the entire mishap of the end of that game.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
They pulled the Rudy.
So I have a few. I'm gonna be quick with this one. I'm just gonna give you two. What Amy Adams Strunk did to Mike Vrabel was absolutely ridiculous. She was the one that made the call to fire him, and then she didn't get in front of the media and made the GM get in front of the media to discuss after she made the call firing him. I think that's a coward's move. So Amy Adams Strunk.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
But more importantly, and I just want to say this out loud because I can already see the writing on the wall. The Chicago Bears have now fired Luke Getsy. They fired their offense coordinator and their quarterback coach. Ryan Poles went on media today and said, we're evaluating all our options. You had John Fox. You drafted Mitch Trubisky. You fired John Fox after 1 year. You gave Matt Nagy over the keys to a quarterback you didn't draft. You got rid of Mitch Trubisky. You drafted Justin Fields. Then you fired Matt Nagy. You gave Matt Eberflus the keys to a quarterback you didn't draft. You have Justin Fields. You have the first overall pick. You fired the offense coordinator. You fired the quarterback's coach, and you're giving Matt Eberflus another year, and you're going to have him draft a quarterback. At what point do we just call this insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You got to learn one day, Chicago. If you are going to keep Eberflus, you got to keep Fields. If you're not going to keep Eberflus, then if you're going to draft a quarterback, you have to fire the head coach and marry the coach to the quarterback. I'm tired of coaches in lame duck years getting rookie quarterbacks. So for this week and forever, the Chicago Bears.
Come on, you gotta be kidding me.
Guys, fun show. We got 5 seconds each. Wrap up. Anything you guys got to say?
Nope. Blue.
Appreciate everybody tuning in. Congratulations again to the Michigan Wolverines for winning the national championship. It should be a great weekend, wild card weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm the NFL genius, Gene Walzak. That's College Cottrell. That's Uncle Shally. We are signing out.